Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon. James Tatum here with Sideline Sports alongside my man John Shear, reporting to you from Kansas City here in the media workroom. We just wanted to have a recap of last night's action. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of trades. There was a lot of crazy things happening in the NFL draft. The biggest story of the night was quarterback Will Levis. He was not selected in the first round, which was a surprise to a lot of people. According to a lot of ESPN analytics, they were saying that he had a 0.1% chance of not being selected. So it was pretty crazy. They kept showing him a lot on camera, but he was not selected. A lot of mock drafts had him mocked to go to Indianapolis. Indianapolis went to Anthony Richardson. So, John, what's your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, so as far as Will Levis, according to Garofalo, he apparently slid because how he handled meetings with teams, and in particular the fact that he didn't own issues in college and blamed teammates. That's why teams apparently were not very high on him. Did not take him in the first round. I think they didn't take him because, they saw what we saw. It's just there's not a lot on him, and he hasn't proven himself, obviously. Didn't handle himself well in meetings and all of that, and he was already a project and a risk as is. And I've told you time and time again out here, me personally, I don't believe in projects in the first round. I just think that's stupid. If you're going to take a project, second round the earliest you do it, and he's definitely a project, and he was not at all happy about it. he was definitely took it personal. He's not going to be here apparently for second round or third round. He's not going to be here for that.
Yeah, he went home.
So it's just red flags everywhere. And apparently, Jim Irsay put out a tweet today saying
ridiculous tweet.
They might take him, put him behind.
Saying it's going to be like a Joe. It's going to be like a Joe Montana, Steve Young situation. Like I don't know what all that was about, but that's kind of
Jim Irsay and Will Levis seem
that's
to be a
sports
perfect
moron
match.
Tune into the Gauntlet, guys, because the sports moron of the week.
We have a lot of that.
There's going to be a lot of choices tonight,
a lot of
we will talk about that later on. But I have to say, man, I am not really surprised that he didn't go in the first round, just because I didn't really see him as that type of guy. Honestly, I really didn't. I heard a lot of people saying that they could see him going to the Colts, and I kept saying that I thought it was ridiculous. However, I also wasn't surprised. Wasn't expecting Indianapolis to go with Richardson there. I thought that they would end up with Will Anderson, who the Houston Texans went up to trade up for. But based off of everything that we heard from Mike Garofalo's report, yeah, that's not a type of guy that you want as the face of your franchise. You're drafting a guy at the quarterback position. That's the guy that's supposed to lead your franchise. So it has to be a guy that not only can get it done on the field, but also conduct himself very well. So if you're being like that in meetings and blaming your teammates and pointing fingers, that's not really what teams are going to be looking for. And some teams will take you off your draft board just off of stuff like that, because character is very important when you're looking at this process.
You want the entire package. And us meeting with Bryce Young last night, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson, all three of them had those qualities about them when we met with them last night. All three of them had those about them. Say what you want about CJ Stroud and his processing ability. Say what you want about Anthony Richardson and his inconsistency when it comes to his accuracy and his mechanics. But talking about what they can provide off the field and how they conduct themselves, those three handled themselves very well. They handled themselves very well last night. And I have no doubts about those three as far as what kind of leaders and people that can be off the field and in the huddle and in the locker room. I have no doubts about those three in terms of that. I still have my doubts about CJ Stroud whenever it comes to again, you and I have talked about this all week. I see quarterbacks don't have a great track record. And he's going to a place where really doesn't have anything to throw to. But they're not going to be very good this year. They're not going to win a whole lot of games. So it should set them up nicely to get some weapons next year's draft. And you can't expect them to be ready to compete anyway this year. And that's okay. You just want to see that CJ Stroud is the guy, that Will Anderson is the guy, and that they're worth the pick. So you'll get to see get to see 17 games of both of them this year and see what they're made of in year one. I have no doubts about Bryce Young. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think all the size, I asked him about his size last night, and he just said he can only control what he can control. And I have no doubts about him. I think he's going to be fantastic for Carolina. And Richardson, I think he should sit. I think he definitely should sit a year. Minshew is a nice piece to hold down the floor until Richardson can develop. It's a weak division, relatively weak division anyway. But I don't see them beating out Jacksonville. Jacksonville's just going to be so good. I'm not opposed to those three quarterbacks and where they were drafted. I just think that the Colts, you've been saying all morning, Colts just have to handle it the right way. They have to develop him and handle him right, Richardson. If they do, he can be a really good quarterback. But it's an interesting situation because you don't typically see quarterbacks in that position drafted that high. And if they handle it the right way, I think that they can get a really good one. They can get a lot out of him. They can pull that out of him, but it's going to take a lot of coaching and a lot of developing.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really good spot. I think it's a really good spot for Richardson in Indianapolis because I think that the offensive scheme that head coach Shane Steichen is trying to put into place is a good fit for his skill set and his abilities. We know that he's a very good athlete. We know that he can move around and make plays. Obviously, Shane having worked with Jalen Hurts the last couple of years, I think that had a lot. I think that played a factor in why they wanted to go with him over someone like Levis. So I do think that it's up to this organization to coach and develop this young man. Not rush into anything and expect the world from him from day one. I think that he just needs some time to figure some things out. I think that he's a little bit raw when it comes to everything.
Yeah.
I think that the mechanics, throwing mechanics,
but those are things
the footwork, the footwork in the pocket. These are all things that you have to work on. Those are things that Jalen Hurts was also struggling with. Lamar Jackson also struggled with when they were coming into the league. So if they can do it, I also think that Richardson can do it as long as he, has the work ethic and puts the time. Which, from speaking to him last night, he seems like a very good young man, very easy to root for, and I think he's going to do well as long as the Colts coaching staff works with him and does their job.
He did mention last night that he doesn't want to be just an athlete. He doesn't want to be the guy that everybody's labeling him as this freak athlete that can run the ball. He doesn't want to be that. He wants to be an NFL quarterback. He wants to throw the ball and not just have that label as a running quarterback, an athletic quarterback. Like, he wants to be able to stand in the pocket and throw the ball downfield in windows accurately. He wants to be able to do all of that and break that stigma of you're just a running quarterback and that's all you can do. Kind of like Lamar Jackson's labeled that, and Jalen Hurts was labeled that. But he broke that. He broke that label. He took that label off this year, ripped it off like a Band-Aid.
Ripped it off.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's very possible. Again, we saw it in Philadelphia where Steichen was able to help do that with Jalen Hurts. So he definitely can do that with Richardson. It's just the big problem for me is going to be Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay he's the AFC Jerry Jones, right? So he has to get out of the way and not do what Jerry Jones does in Dallas. Just get out of the way, let the guys you hire do their job. Don't play this game of, I'm going to take Will Levis and I take Will Levis. Put him behind. Don't do that. Draft Richardson at 4.
That would be absolutely the worst thing that could happen for the Colts.
Have a nice a nice, solid starter in Minshew. I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback, but he's a good, solid starter that can hold it down and win some games and compete in the division. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it's a weak division. Even with Jacksonville should be better. They are the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they, in their history, have found ways to be disappointing. And even in the playoff game, like Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over a ton in the first half. So even with Cal Ridley back, the Jacksonville Jaguars can go back to the same old Jags. They can do that. So this division is anybody's ball game. Anybody can take this division, even with as strong as the Jags look. AFC South always finds a way to make things interesting.
You got to play the games for a reason.
You got to play the games. Nothing is set in stone. So I think the Colts have a chance. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but they definitely have a chance in this division. They're not in the AFC East. They're not in the AFC West. They're not in the NFC East. They're not in any of those divisions where, or they're not in those divisions where it's like the case is shut. You have no chance of winning. Like you're in the AFC South. Always have a chance in that division for whatever reason.
Yeah, AFC South definitely had an interesting night last night with the Colts getting Richardson, the Houston Texans. One could say the Houston Texans are one of the biggest winners from last night's draft because you go out and you get C.J. Stroud to be a franchise quarterback, and then you also trade up to that third spot, trade with Arizona. You get Will Anderson, so you got two foundational pieces to build your team around on both sides of the ball. I think that's a home run for head coach D'Amico Ryans going into his first season. So when we're looking at this draft, what are some of the other biggest winners and losers from this draft?
I mean, you're just lobbing like you're throwing meatball out there. You're throwing like a slow pitch softball. Come on, man, it's easy. The Eagles easily won this draft. You have Jalen Carter fall to you. You have Nolan Smith fall to you
at the 30th pick. That's absolutely insane.
When you were mocked to take him at 10, and he falls you at the end of the first round. Carolina apparently wanted to jump back up and get in there, get their Nolan Smith, but it didn't happen. Eagles not moving. They wanted their guy. We saw how excited they were when they got to 30. Everybody in that draft room was going crazy because they knew
no one could believe it.
Should not be falling to us at 30 after Jalen Carter fell to us at 9. Say what you want about Jalen Carter's issues, but it doesn't.
He's one of the best players in the draft. As far as
I see, did he lose any talent? Did he stop? Did he forget how to play football? Oh, no, he didn't. Yeah, there's a little bit of questions about his work ethic and his motor. But guess what? In Philadelphia, where
he landed to a great situation.
He doesn't have to go. He's not in Houston where Will Anderson has to lead that defense. He can go into a situation where it's stacked. He can get comfortable. He knows he's on a great defense, great scheme.
You got guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham that's been there for a very long time.
The culture there, and he's with his former Georgia Bulldogs, his teammates. The culture there with the Philadelphia Bulldogs, I guess people are calling them now.
Yeah.
The culture there is great. So, I think that he'll be okay. We saw Laramie Tunsil. Remember that with the Dolphins? Everybody freaked out. Fell to the Dolphins, and it worked out for the Dolphins up until they traded. Then that worked out for the Dolphins. They got a haul. Works out for the Texans. They got Tunsil. He's paid a lot of money. Just got a new contract. So I think he'll be fine. People are overreacting way too much. And the Eagles got two steals in the first round. And they absolutely crushed it. They're my obvious winner. And then my loser's got to be the Detroit Lions, man. I don't believe in this Gibbs pick, not because of Gibbs himself, but because you just signed David Montgomery. You had DeAndre Swift, who you seem to hate. I don't know why. And you had a chance to take Christian Gonzalez, and you desperately need him. You just gave up Okudah for peanuts on the dollar. Gave up on him. And he had a lot of tackles last year as a corner, which is rare. You gave up on him, so you need a new corner, a new face. And you had a chance. You wanted him you were mocked for 6 with him. He fell to 12 when you traded back. And you still passed on him to Gibbs. And you didn't need a running back because if you're the Eagles and you take a chance on Bijan at 10, I'm okay with that. The Eagles are set. They just went to the Super Bowl. I'm okay with that. You're playing with house money. But if you're the Lions, you haven't won anything. You haven't proven anything. You didn't make the playoffs last year, even though it was a nice run at the end of the season. So you have a lot of holes still to fill. Don't think that your 9-8 finish, your strong finish, makes you a lock this year. You have a lot of holes to fill, especially on that defense. The offense is fine as is before the Gibbs pick. Really fine. I love it. Even when Jameson Williams comes back, it's going to be fine. But the defense had a lot of problems. You had a chance to get your cornerback of the future, and that's a big issue. You skipped on him, let him go to the Patriots. You take a running back. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Then they reach for a linebacker at 18. They could have gotten the second round. These picks by the Lions, I told you about it all night last night, all day today. These teams are making luxury picks.
When you're not a luxury team.
Falcons, luxury pick. Lions, luxury pick. Like, these teams are making luxury picks. They're great players, don't get me wrong. They're extremely talented. But when you're a bad team, when you're picking in the top 10, you're a bad team, been a bad team for a long time. You got to fill those holes. You got to fix those issues. You don't have the room to make luxury picks when you're bad. I just don't like it. I don't like luxury picks from teams that are bad teams. So
it's kind of like you're living in a trailer park and you got like a Bugatti sitting in your driveway. That's kind of what it feels like to me. But
and you can't afford the insurance on it. But don't worry, you'll just keep driving it around until you can no longer afford it.
Or it's like you're dating this girl, and you take her to your place. You got like a really nice apartment. You show her to the room, and you got like a 50-inch TV. Sitting on your floor, you got like an air mattress or something like that.
Roaches everywhere or something.
That's what it feels like to me, man. But I think that the obvious choices here for the winners, Houston Texans, for the reason I said. You get two foundational pieces to build your team around. So this is the first step that the Houston Texans need to get their franchise going in the right direction. I think D'Amico Ryans is going to do a great job as a head coach. He's really a guy that people seem to be able to get behind. Obviously, he does have history with the franchise, having been a player there, and he was a very good player for them as well.
Yep.
But he's a great leader, and we saw he did a brilliant job with the 49ers defensive coordinator. Even though they got a lot of pieces on defense, I think D'Amico Ryans is a very big reason for why they were so successful. But yeah, this is where the Texans are going to start to get back on the right track. Maybe we're not going to see all that immediate success, but I think the foundation is going to be built this upcoming season. And then in the future seasons from now, people are going to want to play for D'Amico Ryans. They're going to want to go to Houston and play with C.J. Stroud, play with Will Anderson on that defense. I think that it's going to be a fun team to watch this season. Young team trying to get better, turn the page. And then, obviously, Philadelphia Eagles, the rich get richer. You see how people were saying stuff about, what is this team going to do? You're losing all these free agents. You lost Hargrave. You lost T.J. Edwards. You lost Kaiser White. You lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The sky is falling. Philadelphia is not going to be able to contend back for the Super Bowl again. I think all that noise is out the window after last night, what they did. Jalen Carter was one of the best talents of the draft. Had some off-the-field concerns. It kind of caused him to slip down a little bit. But fantastic player, repairing him with Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, a couple of his former teammates, and then you get Nolan Smith, who had an outstanding year last year. Really did a great job at the Combine as well. He's a good talent, and to see him be mocked in the top 10, they had the Eagles taking this kid with the 10th pick in a lot of the mock drafts, but he fell all the way to the 30th pick, which is absolutely insane to me that they were able to walk away with both of these guys. Which begs the question, why were none of these teams taking Nolan Smith?
We had heard a apparently some of the reports last night was that there was concerns about an injury that he
There's always some
has.
injury that happens right before the draft.
That was the apparent concern, was that there might be an injury that.
Not sure if I'm buying it.
Guess what? What did the Eagles do last year? They drafted Nakobe Dean. He fell really far because of the injury.
All the way to the third round.
Guess what? Like, that is something where, okay, even if he would have an injury, Will Smith would have an injury and be out for 8 weeks or a year or whatever, guess what? Next year he'll be back. Like, the defense is loaded. It's not something where Philly is going to let the sky's not going to fall if they don't have him for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a year, or whatever. Not that I'm saying that that's going to happen, but if that was the case, they'll have him next year, and the year after, and the year after that, and the year after that. So you have him for at least 4 more years.
Right.
What does it matter when you know he's a top 10 talent? He's obviously mocked top 10 for a reason. This makes no sense to me. Philly's just how he keeps cooking. And I don't understand how people keep letting him get away with this. At some point, it has to be a crime. Somebody has to call the police.
He's brilliant at what he does.
This is borderline illegal in how he's doing to the league.
Yeah.
And people just turn a blind eye. I don't get it.
Yeah, so for my loser, I'm going to have to go with the Washington Commanders. You take Forbes, corner out of Mississippi State with that 16th overall pick. I just don't think that was the right pick. You have a guy like we're talking about Nolan being a potential top 10 pick. I feel like that would have been a great pick for Washington. You have a lot of concerns with Chase Young. They did not pick up his 5th-year option. He hasn't played in quite some time
He's had
due to injuries. Due to injuries, and he hasn't played a full season since he's been in the NFL. So that's kind of a problem. And I think that drafting a pass rusher, that's a premium position. I think a guy like Forbes, you could have got possibly in the 2nd round. I think he might have been there. But that's who they decided to go with, 166-pound guy playing in the NFC East, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, CeeDee Lamb. There's some good receivers in this division, and I don't think that was the greatest pick for the Washington Commanders, so that is why I have them here, my loser. So looking at this draft, we're on day 2 now. We got the 2nd round tonight, 2nd and 3rd round. What are some of the names to still watch out for? Because there's still some talent on the board, John.
Yeah, obviously everybody's going to say Will Levis, but Hendon Hooker's still there. Jalen Hyatt is out there, which he's my favorite receiver in this draft. I think he's
had a great year last year.
Best receiver. I think he's going to be the best. I don't understand why he fell so much. Maybe other people thought he should be a 2nd round, but I just think the kid is so good and so fast. And whoever gets him, I personally thought the Vikings should have taken him over Addison. That's just me, but I'm extremely high on him. Jalen Hyatt, the tight ends. You and I talked about this today. There's only one taken in the 1st round, and there's a plethora of tight ends that are going to go in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And these aren't just solid tight ends. These are like fantastic tight ends that some can block, some can catch, some can do both. These are going to be really, really good tight ends. Washington, Florida, there's so many tight ends out there, and there's so many tight end needy teams. The Dolphins, the Packers. There's so many teams that are in desperate need, and that is a big position on the offense. And like years ago when Gates was around, like it was a big position, but it wasn't what it is now, where that's almost like having another wide receiver on the field. So being able to address that, we saw the Vikings were willing to get a 2nd round pick this season to get TJ Hawkins, and they really like me in a nice season. So we'll see. And there's a lot of good corners out there too. Joey Porter Jr. is still there.
Still on the board.
I don't understand how he fell. I would have taken him before some of these other corners. That's just me.
If I'm Washington, I would have rather taken Porter over Forbes. I really would.
Was very high on him. And Steelers already fielding calls with that 32nd pick. I've been fielding calls about it all day, and nothing's happened yet. The Lions are fielding calls on DeAndre Swift, obviously. I think his draft or his stock, like as far as what the Lions are going to get for him, just plummeted once they took Gibbs. Like you knew, teams already know, like the Lions have to trade a running back. They have to get rid of one. And since the Lions traded or got Gibbs, now Swift's stock is nothing. So teams are going to give up next to nothing to get him. There's your guy Silver to Barber.
Yeah, Silver to Barber. We have some
slick cut you got.
Yeah, thanks Silver to Barber. Jessica says, "How about the Cowboys?" The Cowboys, they took a defensive tackle.
That was a really good pick for them.
So they're trying to
do what the Eagles are doing.
Yeah, they see what Philadelphia is doing, and they're trying to build a team in the trenches as well. So
and that's
smart. I think it was a good pick too.
Mika, you pair him with Mika Parsons along that line.
They got some pieces on defense for sure.
You pair him with Lawrence along that line. That line is going to be so good. We already know they got good linebackers. They got some good defensive backs with Diggs and company. Last year, the defensive backs these past 2 years, their defensive backs were really good. Pass rush is really good. To take pressure off of Mika Parsons, because Lawrence doesn't produce like he should. To take pressure off of Mika Parsons is a big thing. So if this guy can come through, I think it's a fantastic pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Something they need to do, and I'm really proud of them for not just going, well, let's keep improving the offense. Like years past, Dallas loves doing that. But you got to make sure that defense is taken care of because you're going to face Jalen Hurts. You got to be able to stop him from scoring. And you got to be able to make some stops.
Rick says to be good, you need pads and pens. Get all together, doing okay though. Yeah, I mean, the Patriots. Let's talk about the Patriots because you interviewed the newest Patriot, Christian Gonzalez, asking him how does he feel about the challenge to go against Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle in that division. What do you think about that pick for the Patriots?
I think it's an absolute steal. There's no way he should have fell with the Patriots, but I feel like Bill Belichick was licking his chops. Belichick's had some bad drafts for a while, bad free agencies. He's not done a very good job as a GM, so I feel like this helps alleviate some of the bad drafts and bad free agencies that he's had as a GM lately. This gives him some leeway because I don't know how much longer New England sticks with him as the GM. And this was a no-brainer. Detroit was dumb for passing up on him, as I keep saying. And the Patriots, this was a no-brainer. Like if I'm at 14, I'm locking that pick in the second it gets to me when Gonzalez is there. I'm locking
I was
it.
surprised.
And that's basically what they did. Brilliant pick. They had to have it. They already got some really good corners, really good safeties, and this just adds to because you're going to have to. AFC's Rodgers, Tua, Allen, all those receivers, you're gonna have to cover them.
Yeah.
And it starts with Christian Gonzalez and the rest of the
New England, they do have some pieces on that defense, especially Matthew Judon. So I think when you look at Belichick and what he's done, even before becoming a head coach, he was a defensive coordinator for many, many years. So he really understands defense. So I think Christian Gonzalez is very unique. He's got size. I mean, he's over 6'2". He's got those long arms. He can be physical. He's a ball hawk. I also think it's a good pick for the Patriots. So, John, for you, what do you think was the most surprising pick that we saw on day one?
Surprising pick?
Most surprising.
Right. I still am surprised that – I'm not surprised that the Colts went a quarterback, but I am surprised. I'm not surprised because it's Jim Mercy, but I'm surprised because – it's a 4th overall pick, and you're taking a guy that clearly should not be starting day one. Clearly is a project. If you went Levis or him, you're going to be, in my eyes, the same boat where you can't start in day one. If you're going to have a 4th overall pick and you're not starting in day one, I have a problem with that. Again, I'm a proponent of not if it's a quarterback and it's a project. You know he is. I don't like taking him first round, and I understand they needed to do what they had. They had to do what they had to do, but I thought that was very surprising. Doing that, I didn't like it. That was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
I mean Jim Irsay.
I mean, Jim. We can talk about Jim all day, but I don't think we would have enough time to go into everything, man. But I gotta say that I was really surprised with the Seattle Seahawks with that 5th overall pick taking Witherspoon there. Not necessarily that I think it was a bad pick. It just really wasn't the pick that I was expecting. When you talk about the Eagles getting Jalen Carter, a few dominoes had to fall in order for that to happen. And the first domino was Seattle going with Witherspoon with that
instead
pick.
of Jalen Carter.
Because I really thought that was going to be the pick for them, and if not them, then it was going to be Detroit. Detroit traded out. But
I think Detroit traded out because Witherspoon went.
Maybe that was their guy.
Because I think they wanted Witherspoon at 6, and because Seattle took him, Seattle made the dominoes fall, where Detroit had to trade out. Seattle didn't take Carter. The Lions weren't taking Carter, and then the dominoes just kept falling.
But I don't necessarily think it was the wrong pick or the bad pick. All I'm saying is that it was just not the pick that I was expecting for them.
Yeah.
But I kind of understand it, and I kind of understand what they're trying to do. When you look at how Seattle was so successful, doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it's been 10 years since we've seen the Legion of Boom.
And that was the first thing I said when
that 2013
I looked at
championship team.
Oh, yeah. Pete Carroll's trying to recreate the Legion of Boom. That's what he's trying
to
do.
Last season, outstanding player. He was a mid-round pick for them last year. One of the best corners in the NFL last year. You pair him with a guy like this, who's physical, who can really hit. That's probably the biggest thing that stood out to me when I was checking out Witherspoon's tape, when I was looking at all these draft prospects this offseason. I do think it's a good pick for Seattle, and Seattle's going to be an interesting team. You had them in the playoffs last year. Geno Smith had a bounce-back season, really a resurgent comeback player of the year. They also go out and get an Ohio State wide receiver, JSN. So it's going to be very interesting for the NFC West. So the 49ers appear to be the clear favorites, but Seattle could give them a run for their money. I think that could happen.
I mean, Seattle was losing by 2 at the half in that playoff game against San Fran.
Mm-hmm.
They got blown out in the second half, but they hung with them in a playoff game on the road. Weather wasn't great. It was a game where the Niners should have demolished them because obviously the talent that the Niners have should be a game where it's not close. But Seattle hung in there. Seattle played relatively well all year. So I think Seattle's close.
No.
And Woolen's going to develop more. Witherspoon's there. And they got another receiver. So now you have to cover 3 receivers. For Lockett, Metcalf, and Jackson Smith. You got to cover all 3 of them, plus Walker's going to be really good again. It's a tough offense to defend. Geno can run the ball too. He can pass it, but he can run it too. It's a really good offense, and defense was pretty solid last year. So Seattle had a fantastic draft.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So that is pretty much all we have for right now. Stay tuned for tonight's draft for the 2nd and 3rd round. Definitely still some good names on the board. John, anything you want to say before we get off here?
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you check out all of our shows on Sideline Sports YouTube and all of our social medias. Check out James on his Twitter, me on BlueHawks13.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of press conferences and pictures and all that good stuff for live here in Kansas City. You can check out all of our content on our social medias, and then we'll have the Gauntlet tonight.
Yeah, the Gauntlet's going to be at the same normal time, 8 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to get into a lot of good stuff tonight. So make sure you guys tune in for that. All right, guys, we will see you later.